Are you aware, according to your own tradition, this is in Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Muhammad actually thought he was demon-possessed, Majnun. He thought the spirit that violated him was evil, and he wanted to kill himself until Khadija calmed him down, and Waraqah bin Nawfal supposedly said, well, if what you tell me is true, then the namus has come to you.
If Waraqah understood revelation through a Merkabah-style framework, he would have interpreted Muhammad's experience in the Cave of Hira not as a demonic attack, but as the manifestation of a legal angelic being, a heavenly messenger akin to Metatron or Gabriel, the bringer of nomos, the Greek word for law.
But then who do you believe, like, in the Quran? What is the Quran and who wrote it?
The Quran is a deception of Satan, because we're told in Galatians 1, verses 8 to 9, but if we or an angel from heaven should preach the gospel other than the one we preach to you, let him be anathema. We are told that even Satan and angels, who are fallen angels, can appear to deceive people, claiming to be Gabriel and bringing revelation here. Go to 2 Corinthians 11, verses 13 to 15.
2 Corinthians 11.
15. So according to us, Satan can appear as an angel of light. He can appear as Gabriel or Michael. He can even appear as Jesus or whatever to deceive you. And when Muslims tell us Gabriel came to Muhammad, I say, how do you know it's Gabriel? How do you know it's not Satan claiming to be Gabriel to deceive Muhammad into thinking he is from God, and then has Muhammad condemn a fake Satan? Because the Iblis of the Quran is not the Satan mentioned in the Bible. They're not the same. But in 2 Corinthians 11, 13 to 15.
For such men are false apostles, deceitful workmen, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is no surprise if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their deeds.
So we're told Satan can appear as an angel of light, deceiving you into thinking he's not Satan. And then he will inspire you to appear as if you're a minister, an apostle, a rasul, but the end will expose you. And Muhammad had a very bad ending. But before I even go there, are you aware, according to your own tradition, this is in Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Muhammad actually thought he was demon-possessed, Majnun. He thought the spirit that violated him was evil, and he wanted to kill himself until Khadija calmed him down, and Waraqah bin Nawfal supposedly said, well, if what you tell me is true, then the namus has come to you. So my challenge to you, Hisham, is if you can find in the Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament, where the true prophets of God, or the apostle of Jesus, experienced what your prophet experienced when the Spirit came to them, or Gabriel came to them, where they were afraid, or they were squeezed to the point they thought they're going to die, or they start foaming at the mouth and thought that they were demon-possessed, want to kill themselves. Can you show me any of those prophets that experienced what Muhammad did? None of them. What Muhammad experienced is something no prophet before him experienced, that was a true prophet. Read. When Gabriel comes to Mary, she's afraid, he says, do not be afraid. When Gabriel comes to Zechariah, the father of Yahya, John, he says, do not be afraid. When Jesus appears to John in Revelation, he says, do not be afraid. When Gabriel comes to Daniel, he says, do not be afraid. The true prophets and messengers are comforted and strengthened, but your prophet was violated to the point he ran shivering to Khadija saying, cover me, and wanted to kill himself. That's not the same experience. So how come your prophet's experience is different from the experience of the true prophets of God?
When we look back at the earliest Islamic records, something fascinating and deeply human appears in the story of Muhammad's first encounter in the Cave of Hira. According to the Sahih al-Bukhari, one of Islam's most trusted collections, Muhammad was alone in the cave when a mysterious being appeared and said, Iqra, read. Muhammad replied, Ma ana bikari, I am not a reader. The figure then pressed him tightly until he could hardly breathe and repeated the command. Terrified and shaken, Muhammad rushed home to his wife Khadija, saying, Zamiluni, Zamiluni, cover me, cover me. In his trembling voice, he confessed, Laqad khashitu ala nafs, I fear for myself. That simple phrase captures the raw emotion of the moment, fear, confusion, and uncertainty, not triumph or peace. The Sirah of Ibn Hisham adds even more detail. After the first revelation stopped for a time, Muhammad fell into deep sadness. The text says he would climb to the tops of mountains, intending to throw himself down. But whenever he approached the edge, the figure identified as Gabriel appeared again, saying, O Muhammad, you are truly the messenger of God. Historically, these early narratives show that the first experience was not calm or reassuring, but overwhelming, a mixture of awe and fear. In 7th century Arabia, such reactions were often linked to encounters with unseen spirits. The culture of the time blurred the lines between divine inspiration and possession by a jinn. Even the Qur'an itself reflects this cultural tension when it responds to accusations that Muhammad was Majnun, meaning possessed or out of his mind. When we compare this moment to the pattern of revelation in the Bible, the contrast becomes unmistakable. Whenever prophets like Moses, Daniel, or Mary felt fear at the presence of the divine, the response was always the same: fear not. To Moses, God said, I will be with you. To Daniel, the angel said, fear not, Daniel, your prayer has been heard. And to Mary, fear not, for you have found favor with God. In Scripture, revelation brings peace and assurance. The voice of heaven strengthens the messenger. But in the earliest Islamic sources, Muhammad's experience begins with terror, uncertainty, and only later, through the interpretation of Khadijah and Waraqah bin Nawfal, is it redefined as a prophetic calling.
To be honest with you, I don't read hadiths, but
If you don't read hadith, then you can't explain the Quran to me, because you don't know. If I say, just go to the Quran, show me when the Quran was sent down, to whom was sent down, and where, how are you going to answer that? The Quran doesn't tell you. What year was the Quran sent down?
I don't go read hadiths, but my parents, they used to tell me about the hadiths and things like that, but some specific hadiths, I don't really search them up by myself.
Research them, because we did a session on it. He has a session here where I go to the hadiths. We're showing Muhammad thought he was demon-possessed, and the symptoms he had, he would foam at the mouth. It says he would snort like a camel. We did a session, and we gave you the hadiths. That's no experience that any true prophet ever encountered. You will not find Daniel. He goes limp, and he starts, it says, snorting like a camel and foaming, or thinking that he's demon-possessed. None of them went through these experiences. That explains Muhammad was right when he said, I think I'm Majnun, possessed by a jinn. Sadly, he was right. I can go deep into this, but what I'm trying to show you is, if I believe the Bible is not corrupt, and the Bible tells me false prophets will come, and they will do miracles, not by God, but even by the power of Satan and demons, and Antichrist will come. And this is how you're going to know. They're going to say, Jesus is not the Son of God. God is not the Father. And then as a Christian, I come and I see Muhammad says, Jesus is not the Son of God. God is not the Father. Then as a Christian, do you see why we say, oh, he is one of the Antichrists and false prophets that Jesus warned us about? You see it?
But
That's why we don't accept it.
But why do you still believe like Islam is a religion from Satan if it like promotes the giving to the poor and to be good to people?
Mormonism promotes being good to the poor and providing for people. And Joseph Smith, he's a prophet. So why aren't you a Mormon? Didn't you just read what Paul said? Satan will deceive false apostles to do good, because that good is what deceives you into thinking they're from God. We just read it, 2 Corinthians 11, 13 and 15, that Satan's ministers will appear as if they're righteous. So Joseph Smith and Mormons also feed the poor and give to the needy and spend millions in charity. So why aren't you a Mormon?
Yeah, I guess good point.
In the Jewish mystical tradition known as Merkabah, there emerged the idea of a spiritual ascent, of prophets journeying toward the heavenly throne of God. From this tradition arose the figure of Metatron, the Prince of the Presence, or Sar HaPanim in Hebrew. He was regarded as the highest of angels, seated on the second throne beside God, reflecting divine glory like a mirror that radiates the light of heaven throughout creation. In the apocryphal text, 3 Enoch, Metatron is described as the patriarch Enoch, taken up into heaven and transformed into a being of pure light, hence the title, the Light of God. He serves as a bridge between God and humanity, delivering divine law, wisdom, and heavenly instruction to the prophets. During the early centuries of the Common Era, this idea of Metatron spread among Jewish Christian circles, groups such as the Ebionites and Elkosites, who blended Jewish belief with their new understanding of Jesus. These communities often viewed Metatron, or a comparable angel like Gabriel, as a mediator of revelation, sometimes even calling him the Logos, or the angel of the law. In this worldview, the angel was not merely a messenger, but the very embodiment of divine light and law. Seen in this historical light, the figure of Waraqah bin Nawfal becomes particularly intriguing. Islamic sources describe him as a Nasrani, a Christian who could read the gospel in the Hebrew language. This detail suggests that Waraqah did not belong to the Greek Byzantine Orthodox tradition, but to an Arab branch of Jewish Christianity still rooted in Hebrew theology and thought. If Waraqah understood revelation through a Merkabah-style framework, he would have interpreted Muhammad's experience in the Cave of Hira not as a demonic attack, but as the manifestation of a legal angelic being, a heavenly messenger akin to Metatron or Gabriel, the bringer of nomos, the Greek word for law. The identification of that being as Gabriel did not come from the encounter itself. It came from Waraqah's own interpretation. He was the one who gave meaning to the experience, shaping it through the lens of his own theology. His theological lens, shaped by angelic mysticism, transformed a terrifying and confusing encounter into what he perceived as a divine visitation from the angel of the law, rather than a warning of a deceptive spirit. The Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 11:14 articulates a principle deeply relevant here. For Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. Paul was not describing a physical illusion, but a spiritual reality in which evil can mimic the form of revelation to lead people astray. The marks of such deception are never peace or clarity, but fear, confusion, and inner distress. In classical theology, this phenomenon is known as diabolic imitation, a counterfeit spirituality that appears radiant and divine, yet finds its origin in darkness.